Hello everybody and welcome to the Heroes Hype Challenger Series. I am Gillyweed, back after a week of not being here and so excited to be casting with my good friend Anna. Hi Anna.
Hi Gilly, I missed you and I'm so glad you're back as well. The Heroes Hype Challenger series is kind of like our caster home and I'm thrilled to be here with you guys as well.
Yes, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have, I believe, 3 games for you guys tonight, so we'll follow the same format. We'll get to the round of 4 of the semifinals tonight, and then on Wednesday we'll get through the semifinals and then the finals. But these teams will be playing for Road to BlizzCon seeding points. We only have 1 open left. It's going to be in just a couple of weeks at the start of August, and these teams are really trying to pick up some of those seeding points, so they're in a more favorable place in that bracket once we do get to that open.
Yeah, that gives them an advantage moving toward BlizzCon because that is the ultimate place where all these teams want to be. There's a lot of money on the line, a lot of pride on the line, and it's our first World Championship for Heroes of the Storm, so of course these teams have their sights set on that. And there have been quite a few teams that have come through the Heroes Hype Challenger series that ended up winning and placing very well so far in the NA Opens.
Yeah, there really have been a ton. Of course, we have Cognitive Gaming, who used to be Shot in the Bullets Reloaded. We saw them a lot. We've also got the Goon Squad and Pool Play-Doh Some Tangos. So we're really proud of them that they all made it up into the round of 8 this time. But we've also seen the plays in a round of 8 spot as well. So a lot of these teams really proving themselves, even moving on to the majors. We don't get to cast them as much, or didn't in the amateur series, but we now get to see them a lot now that we're in the Challenger series. But I think we do have the draft. It's going to be on the chat, Skype chat.
That's not the right one. The teams are still working on getting me the right one.
All right.
The team's actually, working on getting us that link. They were very eager today and stumbling over themselves a little bit. But who are our first 2 teams again, Gillyweed?
We're going to have the Power Raynors versus the Dinner Excuse. So Dinner Excuse we've seen a lot in a lot of Heroes Hype, both amateur series and challenger series. They've really been working their ways up. They've even been playing in a lot of the opens. But Power Raynors we got to see in the last open. You and I even got to cast them, and they did play a little bit of a Raynor.
I know they did, and it if I remember correctly, it didn't work out so well for them. But it was congruous with their name.
It did. They at least got style points, for sure.
Yes. Okay, we do have a draft, Gilly,
Okay.
and I'm going to link it to you here. And it looks like the teams are ready. I'll let them know that they can go ahead.
All right. So we are going to be on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Tomb of the Spider Queen, one of our newer battlegrounds, and it is also the smallest one in the pool. So a lot of rotations will be favored here, moving between the lanes. We might even see something like an Asmodean because it's really easy to rotate around and pick up stacks for your Globe of Annihilation, or you might be looking for heroes who can really rotate around and get some of those early takedowns.
Vision is going to be a priority here as well. A lot of times we'll see teams really looking for someone like Zagara or maybe Tassadar, somebody who has vision built into their abilities so that they can see around those turn-in points on Tomb of the Spider Queen, where it's important to know whether or not you're stepping into an ambush.
Yes, vision is everything on here, controlling the turn-ins and to stop those ambushes. We do see very standard bans coming out from these teams. Kael'thas and Zeratul would be the 2 heroes, not gracing us with their presence, at least initially. And then Power Ranger is going to go for an early Sylvanas. This is somebody who kind of dropped out of favor just a little bit in terms of the very early picks, but Power Ranger is still prioritizing her, and it makes sense, especially on this battleground when she can really help the push of those web weavers.
Yeah, I was surprised not to see a Jaina there because a lot of times lately that's what we're seeing. We're seeing Kael'thas, Zeratul bans, and then a Jaina first pick. But she is actually going to be 3rd pick. She's going to go alongside Johanna for the Dinner Excuse, and that gives them a good bedrock on which to start building their team. Johanna, a really strong tank warrior who's got a lot of survivability, and Jaina, of course, who can rain down quite a bit of burst damage. But Power Rangers, on the other hand, are not prioritizing that burst damage. They're going with a specialist first pick in Sylvanas, but then they're going to grab Uther, who is a really hefty support, who can also tank quite well, and then they're going to get their damage in Vala, the wingman as we like to call her.
So I really like this Uther pickup from Power Raynors because it's a little bit of a nab away from the dinner excuse. As with the showing of Johanna and Jaina, they definitely are going to be looking to put on some of that early pressure and maybe even look to supplement that with something like Kerrigan or another of those melee assassins. So taking Uther away from that, denying that Divine Shield on top of the melee assassin will definitely deter that at least a little bit. But we also look at the dinner excuse, and they've chosen to ban a warrior, noting that they have their own warrior, and so they're gonna limit that pool a bit for the Raynors.
Yeah, that almost guarantees, asterisk almost, guarantees that we will see Rhaegar for the dinner excuse, and there he is. He's kind of the last of the 3 top healers that we see in the current meta. He can do a great amount of healing, especially with his ancestral healing heroic ability, and that's going to be important, especially with someone like Jaina, who's probably going to need that kind of help. And then they're going to add in that Asmodan. What do you think of that, Gilly?
Well, I think that's something that Power Raynors should have been anticipating with the Johanna pickup early on, because Johanna is so good at being able to help Asmodan really power up into the late game. Asmodan has a talent at level 1 called Taste for Blood that you pick up for his Globe of Annihilation. And every time you kill a minion with the Globe of Annihilation, it adds a stack to that. You can build the stacks all the way up to 500, and every stack that you get increases the damage that Globe of Annihilation does. So it's very late game focused, but Johanna, by picking up Night Takes Pawn, where she does extra damage to minions, she can really help kind of soften up those minions in the early game, pull them together, and then throw a Globe of Annihilation on top to help Asmodan pick up those stacks faster.
Yeah, that's one of the only cases in which last hitting comes into play here in Heroes of the Storm, and it really, really makes a difference in that late game, like you said. Not having Kael'thas, who's kind of our level 16 killer, that's going to mean that the dinner excuse is still going to be pretty hefty once we get to that late game, but wanted to point out that we mentioned Power Raynors did pick Raynor last time we saw them play, and they're going to do it again. They're going to say Raynor and Anubarak are their final picks. Now, Anubarak as a solo tank here. What do you think, Gilly?
Well, it's going to be a little bit rough that they do have things like the protective shield from Uther, and with going with the Locust build, he's going to have a little more sustainability. He has some of that self-heal. And also, Raynor kind of does as well. And then you look at the rest of the team, Vala and Sylvanas have very good escapes. So because it does look a little bit dicey because it's only Uther there to support, but the fact that the rest of the team do have sort of their ways of having their own sustain or being able to escape out of a fight can be a way to sort of mitigate the fact that they don't have a ton of support. And the dinner excuse don't really either. They just have the Rhaegar, so they're kind of in a similar boat as they're going to pick up Tychus. So we're going to have Terran versus Terran here in our first game.
The 2 Marines, look at them, staring each other down. And this is appropriate because today is the 5-year anniversary of StarCraft 2 coming out, by the way.
Oh,
yeah,
very cool.
So a little Marine on Marine battle gonna go on here with Power Raynors and the dinner excuse. So let's let them know we're ready. I wanted to ask you though, we see Tychus is gonna add to the damage for the dinner excuse, and a lot of times lately we have seen Tychus be passed over in favor of someone kind of fancy, maybe like even Nazebo or Falstad. Why do you think the dinner excuse chose Tychus on this particular battleground instead of one of them?
So fighting with Tychus is sometimes difficult because both of his heroic abilities kind of tend toward needing to be able to like pick it up when your opponents can't really disengage from a fight. And for instance, if you were to pop the Odin, then your opponents could just say, well, we're just going to walk away and make Tychus burn that, use it up, and then we can re-engage. Or same with the drill. You just like walk away from the drill, and then all of a sudden you've wasted your heroic ability. So the fact that we actually saw Tempo Storm use Tychus in the July North American Open on Tomb of the Spider Queen, because you can get engagements when you're pushing and sieging where they're not going to run away because they're at their own base already and you're sieging it up. So that's really, I think, what they'll be looking for. We're going to see a couple of different heroes here, and I really think that lends itself to the fact that we do have this double ban system, and we have been kind of focusing on keeping out some of those damage dealers like we see with the Kael'thas and the Zeratul. Forces them to try some different ones for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not a whole lot of space to run on Tomb of the Spider Queen, period. I mean, regardless of determining whether or not to engage, there's not a whole lot of places you can go to get out of an engagement on this battleground, and that's what kind of makes it really interesting to see Tychus here, because if he puts down, let's say, the laser drill, like you said, I mean, these lanes are so small that running away from it would take you not very far.
Yes. Sorry, I was fixing something on the overlay.
No problem.
I think you were mentioning that it's hard to run away from Tychus.
I was just talking about how this particular battleground has so few spaces to run away into.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of ground to cover, and I especially think that it has been a huge determining factor of a team's ultimate victory, how much real estate they can take in the early game in those very, very small lanes, because there's so little space that a lot of times teams feel like maybe it's not quite as important. You're only talking about like an inch or two on screen in terms of how far you've got to push forward or backward. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it's the team that really takes those lanes early on that's able to protect those turn-in points, and therefore able to be the ones that are using the battleground objective most to their advantage.
Yeah, you make a really good point here, and one that kind of goes along with what I was going to say too, which is vision comes in really handy on this battleground, and just the fact that you have the lanes pushed in your advantage gives you vision, because really the only way then you can get to those turn-ins is to go maybe through those secret back way. But it's really important to note that in these compositions, we don't really see a big focus on vision. We've got the possibility of clairvoyance from Uther, probably won't happen, they're going to want that cleanse. Farsight maybe for Rhaegar, but otherwise we don't really have anything, as we don't really have Malfurion for scouting drone, we don't have Tirana, we don't have Tassar, we don't even have Zagara, which is so interesting to see on this battleground.
Indeed it is. And Gilly, we have our teams ready. Should we introduce them?
Let's do it. So you go ahead with the Power Raynors.
Sure. Power Raynors are going to be wearing blue, just like that Terran Marine suit. It's going to be Captain Drunk Bear on a Nubarak, Donut Monger on Sylvanas, Taoism on Vala, Eldinesh on Uther, and Six will be on Raynor.
And setting up very aggressively is the Dinner Excuse, with G-Spot Lol on the Asmodean, already throwing out that All Shall Burn. Imfu on Tychus, and Xandros playing Johanna. Playing Rhaegar will be Caterpillar, and where's the one that I missed? It looks like Charge on Jan.
We already have, of course, our round 1 talents. Nothing that looks particularly strange. Anything that you want to call out there, Gilly?
Just turning the sound down right now. No, there is the Taste for Blood for the Asmodean and the Night Takes Pawn on the Johanna, so we'll constantly see. We can even see it as we start to rotate in here. Xander's going to run in, throw that Condemn down to pull all of the minions in. Oh, we even have Jaina there, who's going to be able to help soften up even more, so really focusing on rotating with all 4, being sure that they can get those stacks built up as fast as possible.
Yeah, and Gilly, just to let you know, it looks like we have a pause, and I'll let you know in the meantime. I'm actually having some lag issues over here as well, so I'll let you take a lot of the play-by-play, sure. And sorry about my potential latency over here. No
problem. We'll look at some of the other talents and speculate about those while we wait. We do have Seasoned Marksman for Raynor, so we will be also looking to build up stacks. So both teams trying to build those up as much as possible. Q build for Vala, so she's focusing on the Hungering Arrow. That's going to make her really good at 1v1 fights. I'm going to hop back over to the game. But a lot of times we do see that multi-shot build on this battleground, because it does help be able to clear out the lanes as fast as possible. But in this case, it is going to be very nice. She will be able to throw that out and really be a very good 1v1 hero, as well as be able to stop some of the turn-ins, because once that thing goes out, it's just going to keep hitting you and hitting you unless you've got someone else nearby you.
You know, it's interesting. Johanna already has 12 gems. I mean, only a little over, now that make that 15, only a little over a minute and a half into this game. So really a priority, it looks like, for the Dinner Excuse to make sure that the battleground objective is going their way. And she's a great person to hold on to those, because she does have so much ability to take hits and get away.
Yeah, that's really nice for them that they do, because of this whole Johanna moves in, then they can pick up the takedowns on all of those minions with the Globe of Annihilation. She just happens to be in the prime spot, like you mentioned, to be able to pick up those gems. But it does make it a little bit difficult later on if she has to be the one to turn in to get web weavers, because normally you want her out in front kind of zoning, being able to stop people from stopping them from turning in. That's not always the case when she has to be turning in there.
Indeed. We see that we see that we have Dinner Excuse having turned in 18 of those gems, 0 so far for Power Raynors, and because of, like we talked about before, the real estate that the Dinner Excuse has been able to get in these lanes, it looks like Power Raynors are having some trouble moving past that wall, that invisible wall that they've created in order to get some turn-ins of their own.
Yeah, well, if they're not careful, the Dinner Excuse can easily pick up. The Dinner Excuse have missed a few of these globes, by the way, but this battleground is so easy to pick up the stacks on, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But it is something important to point out. It is a little bit scary because you have those 4 rotating around. We've got the Dinner Excuse running this battleground so far, and you're right, Power Raynors have to stay back a little bit, because if they get cut out into a condemn, into some slows from Jaina, it's going to be very difficult for them to get away.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a 2-person push down here in the bottom lane. It looks like Taoism was hanging out in the bushes trying to get a snipe on Mfu. They didn't manage to get that, but they are going to take out a tower pretty handily. That's something that Sylvanas is very good at.
Yeah, I really like this from Power Raynors, realizing that they're not going to be able to get ahead up in these lanes. So they rotated Sylvanas and Vala down. It was at one point just Rhaegar down there, or sorry, I guess it was just Sylvanas. So in that way they are able to kind of get some sort of an advance, a lead back in their favor. Picking up that tower gave them a nice little experience boost as we were getting close to those level 7 talents.
Right, and they are going to be pulling ahead in experience, even though we've seen those lane pushes and those minion kills going so well in the Dinner Excuse's favor. So that was a great idea from them, and I think they need to keep doing it, which is what they're going to do now. I think the best use for Sylvanas on this map usually is to push where the attention is not. Although right now it looks like she's going to be caught out and will be taken down.
Oh, sorry for missing that one, guys, but yeah, so now that with that nice little juicy takedown, they are going to be able to get caught back up in experience as well as get the first turn in. So Web Weavers will be spawning in favor of the Dinner Excuse. We'll look at Azmodan and see how those stacks are doing. Looks like so far 124, that's pretty good here, especially since he hasn't even gotten his black pull yet.
Right, and the Web Weavers are going to spawn, of course, into the lanes as far as they are pushed, and luckily for Power Raynors, that, well, maybe not so luckily. It looks like in the bottom lane that'll be right up against the wall, in the mid lane just about the same. The Web Weavers are already at the structures here, and they're going to start doing damage in all 3 lanes.
It looks like the Dinner Excuse are going to choose to spread out, not trying to push too hard in any one lane. Get maybe as many towers as they possibly can. They get both of them down in mid, and mid's still very healthy, so we might, I doubt we see them rotate in, try to get into the 4th. That can put them in a really bad position, but they do have the bound minion there to try to help with that push. They're going to rotate up here. These towers, both of them are out of ammo. They may be going for a takedown here on 6. The Blizzard goes down, and he's going to be able to use Adrenaline Rush and heal right back up.
There are still 4 members of the Dinner Excuse, but they're looking hesitant to push too far. I think, like you said, their goal here was just to pave the way for future Web Weavers and future pushes, which is a really smart step in the early game here. They don't want to overextend and give even one takedown or one misstep to their opponents, because they've seen how well Sylvanas can use those pushes to her advantage. They don't want to give up any potential experience. So they are going to fall back, and they're going to look to maintain this area that they are controlling here in the middle.
Now, we've got 59 gems so far sitting on Power Raynors. We're starting to see the power of having those lanes pushed out, but it's not too bad here. They have a window where they're on the same talent tier. They are a little bit behind, so they do need to do what they can to make sure they're still soaking those lanes. 6 getting caught out a little bit here, and the Blizzard is going to be able to pick up that takedown for the Dinner Excuse.
That means it's going to be 2 takedowns for the Dinner Excuse, and so far 0 for Power Raynors, although they have come close with Mfu down there in the bottom lane a few times. So they've got to start thinking now, where are our strengths as opposed to our opponent's strengths? So far, lane pressure has been in favor of the Dinner Excuse, but those split pushes have really been the power of Power Raynors. So we'll see if they continue to use those in their favor. Although, as we see, Sylvanas go down, that's going to be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, this Jaina has really been on point with those blizzards, and having that snowstorm talent, which is generally the favorite now, has been really, really awesome because it makes it very difficult to try to get away from both of those crashes, because there are two of them. And now we have, for the second time, Webweaver is pushing for the red side dinner excuse, and this is a lot more dire for Power Rangers than the first one, because towers were already down, their opponents have picked up their heroic abilities. It looks like Vala might even go down too, as she's going to walk right into the blizzard, and that is a whole bunch of gems to drop, although it seems like Sylvana's going to be able to pick those up.
Those heroic abilities, by the way, are going to be Ancestral Healing for Rhaegar. Jaina's going to get Water Elemental. We'll seek Odin for Tychus, not that Laser Drill. Black Pool, of course, for Azmodan. And Blessed Shield for Johanna.
Well, we now have heroic abilities for Power Rangers as well. And there goes the Hyperion immediately trying to push Dinner Excuse away. But they look to be trying to pick up a takedown on Captain Drunkbear, as even Water Elemental will come in. But it's going to be taken out pretty quickly. Looking at their heroic abilities, they got Web Blast, Wailing Arrow, Rain of Vengeance, Hyperion that we saw before, and Divine Shield for Uther.
Yeah, we saw the Dinner Excuse taking advantage of some of those nooks and crannies hiding out in that bruiser camp there, trying to make sure that they were walled in from all sides, not taking too much damage. Now they're going to continue just moving around between lanes, taking advantages where they can. They're going to be able to do quite some damage. Now we only see a total of 3 forts. Those are actually going to be the keeps only left for Power Raynors. And so far, no structured damage for the most part for the Dinner Excuse.
Yeah, and the Dinner Excuse, also realizing that they nearly have a level 13 talents, are not going to full on engage unless they really think they can catch somebody out here. Instead, they're just going to look to be able to throw out what they can to stop any turn-ins from Power Rangers, who are now sitting on 49 gems. They've turned in 38, but they still have yet to get a turn of their own, which would really be nice. And on top of that, in the bottom, charge here on Jaina is moving in, trying to take out these Siege Giants by herself. So that does mean that there's only 4 people out here on the battleground, whereas there's the 5 of Power Rangers. But because they've got their level 13 talents, Dinner Excuse feeling very confident here.
Looks like we have Captain Drunkbear especially on the run, getting very low, and you don't want your tank to be the one who is running in the back line. So far, though, looks like Power Rangers are able to deter the Dinner Excuse from pushing much further. Not quite going for their own bruisers yet, but that might be a good idea. They've got to do everything they can to push back the Dinner Excuse and potentially the Web Weavers that are pretty close to spawning, as they do have 41 gems already turned in.
Yeah, they do need to collect some more. They've got 13 now, but they are getting dangerously close, and 3 in a row would be so difficult. Azmodan this whole time, too, has been just farming his stacks, sending out his bound minion to keep lanes pushed wherever Power Rangers are not, and just getting a nice little free push there. But Power Rangers have a little bit of a push of their own now. They've picked up these bruisers. That's going to give them a little bit of space, maybe the space they need to try to get a turn in here. But they do have to be careful. They don't have their 13 talents. We have lots more damage here from the Dinner Excuse. We even got Burning Rage on Johanna. That's more damage from her. Of course, March of Sin for Azmodan too. And then an interesting one, Stormfront for Jaina. So she's going to be able to stay back a little bit further and throw out Blizzard. Won't have to get caught out quite as easily. But speaking of getting caught out, is Anubra going to go down? Divine Shield will keep him alive for now. He's going to drop the Web Blast on one member. I think it is Rhaegar. Nope, Rhaegar is out. Not sure. Maybe Azmodan, actually. Oh, it was Johanna.
Somebody went down. Captain Drunkbear actually got very low there as well. Again, he is the solo tank, and not being able to take so many hits, he's going to actually leave poor Raynor of the Power Rangers behind, and he's going to go down.
That was the power of that Stormfront and Snowstorm combination from Jaina. She was so far back and still was able to throw out the Blizzard, so that he had to run through both of the crashes and could not get out in time. The first one slows you, and then by that time you're trying to get away from the second one. No, the second one hits you and you're taken out. It does so much damage. So a great pickup there for Dinner Excuse. But on top of that, somehow Power Rangers did get a turn in. So now it's possible they could start getting these lanes pushed a little bit out, but they still have yet to be caught up in talents.
Web Weavers are certainly what they needed at this point, because the minions, even by themselves, were pushed all the way up to their walls and doing damage, and they can't afford to have their attention on all 3 lanes when they need to be paying attention to the Dinner Excuse, who did have those level 13 talents. So Web Weavers are certainly what they needed, and I didn't see how they managed to do that, Gilly.
They snuck somebody in, but they are going to lose Raynor now. I actually didn't see where they snuck it in either. I was in awe of the damage that Azmodan did to Sylvanas. One Globe of Annihilation was disgusting. I'm actually going to check out where he's at. 332 stacks, folks. So we're getting up there. That's a lot of damage on your squishy backline. And remember, Uther very cooldown dependent. He has great burst healing, but once he uses those, the cooldowns are pretty long, and if they're not careful, they really can have trouble trying to heal through that.
We do have level 13 now for the Power Raynors, so they are very briefly going to be on the same talent tier as their opponents, although their opponents did just grab some web weavers, so I doubt they are long before their level 16 talents come to pass.
Looking at some of the talents that you mentioned, we do have 2 giant killers for the Power Raynors, so realizing that they've got to deal a lot of damage to these very tanky heroes. Oh, and that Globe of Annihilation, so good in that choke point. Eldenesh 6 and Donut Monger took so much damage here, but now Raynor getting caught out a little bit. Great. Rain of Vengeance there to help take him down. So no healer here on the side of Dinner Scoots, but they're still going after them. They've taken down Sylvanas. They've already taken down Raynor as well. Captain Drunkpair, very low, is trying to get away from this Odin, but will not be able to do so. Is going to go down. Only Uther and Vala remain, and it looks like Uther's going to have to use that Divine Shield to get away.
Yeah, so much power at level 16, especially for some of these damage dealers, and so it looks like the Dinner Excuse was not afraid once they hit that level to continue engaging, even after losing their Rhaegar. But that Rhaegar, of course, falling victim to the nooks and crannies, the knife fight in the closet that is the Tomb of the Spider Queen. So now we will see. He'll be up in about 5 seconds, but will he be here soon enough to continue this push? I don't know.
Oh, Taoism took a giant globe to the face, and his solo does go down. And that is unfortunate for them, as she will be down for 30 more seconds, and already we're losing a lot more keeps. Uther is down. Willing Arrow went out, does not do much. Globe of Annihilation is just wrecking here for Power Raynors. Yeah, I wanted to note that we did have Snow Crash pick up for Jaina, so she's really focusing on Blizzard, as we're not even going to see like the numbing blast or anything like that. We're just going to go straight for Snow Crash, getting more and more waves for that blizzard.
Yeah, and it looks like we will have Rhaegar join the fight again, but the Dinner Excuse is going to continue their pattern of picking and choosing their engagements. They're going to back off now and look to just control all the other spaces on the map. They are going to steal the bruisers from the side of the map of their opponent's Power Raynors, and Power Rangers are saying, no, please don't do that, but they are not going to be in time to steal that capture point, and in fact, they're going to be split, so they're going to try to retreat back into their base to get a more favorable position for this impending potential engagement.
These bruisers here are really just going to buy time. I wouldn't be surprised to see them. They don't really... Dinner Excuse have 41 gems. They're still a little bit off, like 20-ish off from being able to get a turn in. So I'm guessing we're going to see them rotate around and maybe pick up the bruisers. They may even look at the boss, considering the fact that their opponents have another level before they can get to 16. But because there's so many gems on Power Raynors, that could possibly potentially open up for Power Raynors to get a turn in and kind of undo all of the great push that they've done. So instead they might just sit in lanes, try to continue farming up the stacks. We see some pings going down on the boss, but it looks like they're content now just to try to get other pushes where they can and continue picking up stacks for Azmodan, who might be getting caught out here.
Oh, does he manage to get out of it? That looks like Jaina's going to rain down as much damage as she possibly can. It's not going to be quite enough.
And now it looks like the Divine Shield had to go down on Vala. Nubarak is out of the fight already, so is Sylvanas. Eldenesh will fall next. And the Globe of Annihilation takes out Vala. There is a great blizzard from Charge. Such a great idea to go in here to be able to dismount 6, and because of that we see a team wipe. We're not going to see them go after this keep. They're going for core instead. It'll be Dinner Excuse. Looks like they will be taking on game 1, Anna.
They will indeed, and that means, unfortunately, that's the end of the road for Power Raynors in this particular Heroes Hype Challenger Series, but they are welcome back next week, of course. These first few rounds are best of one single elimination, so that means that the Dinner Excuse will move forward in search of those Blizzard seeding points.
That Jaina play at the end to move into the hallway so that she could better reach for that blizzard. She knew she had the increased range. She knew she had the increased radius. and it dismounted them just enough that everyone else could catch up because, of course, they'd also applied her slow, and they got the team wipe. I mean, I don't necessarily think they needed that last takedown in order to be able to go get Core, but I definitely felt like they could after they got it.
Well, and like you said, the Globe of Annihilation was such a huge player as well, and so kind of the lesson that we can learn here from this play is how great it is to have long-range, high damage-dealing abilities on this particular battleground, because you can sit behind so many different walls and in so many smoky places and just kind of lob damage at your enemy, and it can do some serious, serious trouble for them.
Yeah, it's nice for sieging. When you're sitting and you've got like web weavers on the keeps and you can just continue to siege, continue to throw them out. We saw them pick up a Vala takedown that way. It's nice for stopping the turn-ins as well, and you can do it from a very safe distance. And I really loved the pickup from Jaina to increase the range, the Stormfront. I thought that synergized super well with that Asmodean, so they could sit back very far, throw out what they needed to do to deal a lot of damage, and it shows. Their damage numbers were really great, and even their focus on sieging, having that Tychus there as well, that Odin did some serious work. A great job by the Dinner Excuse.
Have to commend the Power Raynors for their commitment to their namesake, Rayner. We have seen them try him a few times, but as yet maybe just not quite finding the synergy that might make him more of a strong player in that composition. So hopefully we'll see them back next week and see them try again.
Yeah, we'd love to have all of these teams back, and you too can make a team as well. If you're interested in competing in the Heroes Hype Challenger Series, it's completely free and open to the public. So check out heroeshype.com where you can find information on how to join us. But we're going to take a very quick break, set up our next game, and when we return, more Heroes of the Storm.